Greetings, everyone. Tim Anderson here, aka Renfell, and welcome to the latest episode of Mondays in MMORPGs. It has been a hot minute or three since the last time we recorded an episode. We ended season three, as I remember correctly, like end of July, early August, because we had to go into playtesting for the tabletop game that we're building with Project Drummond, and that took up August and September. And I told everybody that once we got to the end of September, we'd be back around, I should say, with season four, and that time has finally arrived. We're going to dive in. This is technically episode 45. And moving forward, I don't think we're going to be doing seasons anymore. I think we're just going to be numbering the episodes and moving forward with these and just doing them on a weekly or near weekly basis, covering news and some other stuff. So, if this is your first time here, before we dive in, I would urge you to check out the playlist here on YouTube below. There's previous 44 episodes spread out across 3 seasons. They're in a playlist called Mondays in MMORPGs here on this YouTube channel. Dive in. After you've done that, if you like what you see, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon because you're going to get the updates that way for all of the future episodes that come out in this series, as well as all the other things that happen on this channel, like the Monday Musings episodes, the Lotro Cooking in Real Life series, the occasional streams that I do, book reviews, the Is It Worth It series of video game reviews, and so on and so forth. So, all right, as we dive into this new version of Mondays and MMORPGs, it's going to be slightly different this time around. During the previous 3 seasons, we had guest hosts on, and we did a lot of game development talk. A lot of what we did through the first couple of seasons was related to the work I was doing as the creative director on the Saga of Lucemia MMORPG and as the CEO of Stormhaven Studios. Then in season three, we started having a whole bunch of other developers come on. We had, for example, Scribbles from Defend the Night. We had I forget his name, Cookie Dragon, I think, from Two Kinds Online, Judith. We had the guys from, I'm going to forget all the names of all the developers we had on the show. Karth, the guys from Karth. We had Ash and Phoenix on from Crash While Loading podcast. And each episode featured at least 3 people, usually developers, talking about a variety of different things. Now, moving forward into this new iteration, a lot of these episodes are just going to be me for the moment. The reason is because throughout September, October, into November, I'm still slammed with work because we got a lot of stuff going on with Project Drummond, and I don't have time to be setting up schedules with a bunch of people to talk about all these different topics. Once I get beyond the workload, we're going to be having individuals come back on the show on a guest host basis, and we will start to incorporate those folks. But this time around, we're not going to be focusing so much on the development side of MMORPGs. We're going to be doing a little bit more of just what's going on in news, the latest MMORPG developments. We will be talking about some development related content. That will continue to be a mainstay of the show, but it's not going to be the primary focus moving forward. So, without further ado, I've done a 3.5 minute intro now, which some of you might be going, hurry up and get to the good stuff. That's what I'm here for. So, let's dive into this week's content. So, the episode is rightly titled, talking about fraud and mismanagement and FUBARs of the greatest level. And I think just kind of rolling into this episode, we can look right off the bat. One of the most recent pieces of news that happened this past week was um, Bobby Kotick from Blizzard, Activision Blizzard, was subpoenaed by the SEC. So, for those of you who don't know what the SEC is, it's the Securities and Exchange Commissions of the United States government. And they have opened a subpoena against Activision Blizzard and its CEO, Bobby Kotick. Um, Basically, this is all around the lawsuit that is currently ongoing and was filed a couple months back by the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing. Um, Basically, as per the Wall Street Journal, and there's going to be a link down in the description text below. The SEC is asking the publisher to hand over a variety of documents, including the CEO's communication with executives and personal files of 6 previous employees that complained of sexual harassment and discrimination to the CEO. So this is interesting because the SEC is the Securities and Fraud Division of the U.S. government, which doesn't necessarily usually get into discrimination cases. Um, but I think the issue here is because there have been some additional lawsuits filed by investors claiming fraudulent mismanagement on the part of the CEO of the company, Bobby Kotick, and beyond in terms of covering up these issues so that the investors didn't realize the grievous nature of what's been going on and over the past few years and whether or not sufficient measures had been taken. I don't want to point the finger because I know a lot of people like to just look at Bobby Kotick and say, "Oh, he's an asshole. He's a bad guy because he's, the head of Activision Blizzard and Activision Blizzard is a horrific company." Sure, there are bad things that go on, and as the CEO of a company, you do get, at the end of the day, you are ultimately responsible for everybody underneath you, and that includes any sort of mismanagement that may have taken place. But I would urge people to not have a knee-jerk reaction here and just assume guilt because this is just another layer on that cake of lots of shady shit has been going down at Activision Blizzard for years, and it's finally coming out into the light of day, and we're starting to see what that might look like in terms of lawsuits. And now the federal government getting involved is taking it to the next level. Now, moving beyond Activision Blizzard, we could obviously talk about, like Chronicles of Illyria and the fact that, the lawsuit has been split now, and Exola is going to be taking place in California, but the case against Soulbound Studios in it of itself has to take place in Washington first before the rest of that is allowed to take place in the state of California against Exola. So that's still ongoing. That's probably one of the most recent controversies per se. But the one I really wanted to talk about today, because we briefly touched on this in the Looking for More podcast that I do with Simmerg, Phoenix, and Nathan Napalm. We talked about this game called, where's it at here? Wildfire, which is an upcoming indie game, and how their artwork was stolen by an NFT, an upcoming NFT slash blockchain MMORPG, which has since then deleted its social media presence and gone from there. I know that some people, and we're going to be diving into this a little bit more, but I want to talk about the greater scope of the conversation here with NFTs and blockchain. I believe Kira TV did a video on this called like the Wild West of gaming, or the Wild West of MMORPG, something like that. And it talks about the fact that this is, for some people, a great time to be making money. Because ultimately there is zero regulation on blockchain and NFT. It's not been around long enough for there to be any sort of federal regulation in place to protect the investors or to protect anybody involved, really, at the end of the day. And because it's the Wild West, it is this scenario of anything goes. And in this case, we have seen one of the things that happened was you have this company, and I'm gonna link the article below. This is the article from Kotaku, and I hope I pronounced that right. Everybody likes to pronounce things differently. Um, there was this game called Epic Hero Battles, which was a blockchain based game on the Ethereum network, which was trying to sell 10,000 NFTs that consisted of a randomly generated hero and their pet, which would then be put into battle to win either prizes or NFTs. But the issue is that um, the owners of the Epic Hero Battles game uh, basically contracted a third party to do some art for them, and it turns out that that third party didn't actually do art. At least that's the allegedly this is what happened. Um, Basically, what happened was that there's a game called Wildfire, and the creator of Wildfire, Dan Hines, called the creators of Epic Hero Battles out on Twitter for stealing his artwork and directly using artwork from their game Wildfire. And It's just really funny. Epic Hero Battles then responded and said, "Hey, want you to know that this was a mistake. We got this art from our web developer, but we didn't check it. That was our mistake. It won't happen again." Or will it? However, as people dug in even further, it turns out that the Twitter profile picture from Epic Heroes Battle was lifted straight from an artist's Tumblr. Also, more just it's just yeah, big piece of art from the game's roadmap was stolen from a piece of pixel art by Boki Boki. There's a whole bunch of other allegations in here, and rather than respond to the additional allegations of theft, the creators of Epic Hero Battles simply decided to delete their Twitter account and kind of nuke their website to the point where it's doesn't really have anything up. I'm actually going to check it right now, and because I haven't checked it in a couple days, and see if it's got anything up yet. It does have some new art up, so we'll see if they. I'm assuming that's the right. Let's go here to this Twitter account. Nope, the Twitter's been deleted. Oh wow. Yeah. Epic Hero Battles. Yeah. So, regardless of what, yeah, it's their website doesn't have anything. It's just gray at this point. So they still haven't updated their website with any art or anything else. Now, the reason I bring this up and I want to talk about this in greater detail as part of the fraud element of MMORPGs is that it's really hard to get funding for MMORPGs. I say this in my basically 7 years as the founder and person behind Stormhaven Studios, the CEO of that company for a long time. Raising money because what we did with Saga of Leucemia, which has now been rebranded to Embers Adrift. When we were fundraising for the Saga of Leucemia, we were doing a hybrid version of bringing in pre-order sales and then uh, fundraising outside of that with investors. It was rough. We were an unknown entity, no previous game development experience out there pitching and trying to raise money and having conversations with publishers and private investors. And we definitely made headway and we made a lot of good progress, but it was never easy. And it isn't easy when you're an independent developer because you don't have that benefit of having had either a AAA success behind you, you don't have a name for yourself, you don't have a big name, even if you do have a small name. There's a lot of factors that go into whether or not companies are willing to just give you millions of dollars. And they're not going to do that unless you have a track record of proven successes. And because it's so hard to raise money, um, whether it's through traditional means like finding a publisher or an investor. The flip side of that is trying to run a Kickstarter, and those can fail for a variety of other reasons because people often lack the actual business experience necessary to take something from an idea stage into into an actual funded game, and they don't have the development experience and the business experience necessary to know how to manage the money along the way. A lot of people are looking at, well, what are other ways that I can raise money? If I'm not going to be able to get money from investors and I'm not going to be able to get money from Kickstarter because no one trusts it anymore because of all these other scams, and if I'm not going to be able to get money from a publisher and all this other stuff because I lack experience, well, what can I do? And people are looking to NFTs and the blockchain as this way to sort of bypass that and say, well, look at here's these handful of examples of companies that have raised, in some cases, hundreds of millions of dollars through blockchain NFTs, and people are looking at it going, oh, that's a surefire way to get the money we need. Now, in some cases, people might be doing this legitimately, and they might just, they might legitimately be putting together some sort of offering where they actually have a team of people who are going to be working towards something and working professionally on something. But in a lot of cases, people look at NFTs and blockchain as a get rich quick scenario because there's no regulation in place and it's a fad. It's new. It's one of those things where because it's so new, there is this level of hype around it. Now, I don't necessarily it hasn't been around long enough for me to trust in the efficacy of NFTs or the blockchain or even cryptocurrency for that matter. You can look at what's going on with China right now in terms of right now, my accent coming out. Um, China has made it illegal to trade any sort of cryptocurrency in their regulated market whatsoever. Now, then you have countries like I think it was oh man, I don't remember which South or Latin American Latin American country it was. I'm gonna look it up real quick. Latin American country approves Bitcoin. El Salvador. This was recently, early September. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, they approved Bitcoin in El Salvador as legal tender, which made them the first country in the world to do so. So, on the one hand, you have a tiny little country, and let's face it, El Salvador is not a big economic force. And I think in this case, the president was trying to latch on to something that's new and hyped up and as a way to perhaps kickstart their economy a little bit. But on the other hand, you've got big economic power in the name of China coming in and saying no, we don't want cryptocurrency. It's not regulated. We don't want it. Two sides of the coin, and unfortunately, regardless of what side of the fence you're on, there's just not enough data out there to show whether or not crypto and blockchain and NFTs have enough stability to provide any sort of realistic long-term financing. Because if the crypto market crashes, then those NFTs are worth nothing, and those companies are left holding the bag, and not just the companies, but the people who put money into those things. So it's one of those things where I think a lot of people are looking at it as a get rich quick scenario. I'm not going to name any names. I had a discussion with um, an individual who is trying to put together an independent MMORPG project recently, and their whole pitch was they were trying to do this exact same thing. They were trying to, take an NFT blockchain game to the market and raise money that way because they knew, and this was the funny thing, during the interview, they said specifically that they knew that they weren't going to be able to get any money from Kickstarter because no one trusts MMORPGs on Kickstarter. And because they knew that they weren't going to be able to raise any money on Kickstarter, they were looking at NFTs and blockchain because they had seen other companies doing the same thing. And unfortunately, I look at that and I see other companies doing the same thing where they're choosing to go the blockchain route and the NFT route because they're like, well, hey, this is new. And so I can get in while the getting's good. Maybe I can raise some money from people who don't necessarily know any better, and get in while the getting's good and get the money that I need. And that's the wrong attitude to take, in my opinion, when you're coming into trying to build something that's supposed to be stable and be providing people with an employment for many years to come, as well as providing other people with entertainment who are buying into your company or investing in your company if they're going to want to return on their investment. So. Um, Yes, there are success cases. I'm not going to cover them in this particular episode because that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about the fraudulent side of things, where you have this case of this Epic Hero Battles company who was in a let's get rich quick, let's not do Kickstarter, let's do NFTs at blockchain, and they didn't bother vetting any of the art or any of the assets that they were getting from this contracted third party developer. And that third party developer went out there and just stole a bunch of art from other people and delivered it as their own. That's fucking fraudulent. That's just fraud, straight up, point blank. There is no ifs, ands, or buts around that. That's not to say all NFT slash blockchain projects are fraudulent, but I think this goes to show you that even though we have a handful of success studies, we also have a handful of fraud studies that you can look at too, which show you that it's just so unregulated. People are doing really scammy shit, and you should probably not get involved with that kind of stuff until it's a little deeper into the development of the blockchain and so on and so forth. Now, beyond that, let's look here. There was something I wanted to look at. I gotta find it now because I lost it. Dun, 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 dun. The guy on Twitter, Dan Hines, his somehow I lost the tweet, so I have to go back and find it real quick. He's got a tweet from earlier in September, and I bring this up because this just goes to show you that it's not just about the NFT. It's not just about these companies raising money. It's also about the companies behind NFTs and so on and so forth. Um, there's this company. I gotta find it now. Um, and I lost the page, unfortunately. Ah, here it is. I'm scrolling down to get the part that I want, so I apologize because I thought I had this pulled up and apparently I lost it. Um, so the guy behind the company, one of the companies that they stole art from, um, on September 16th, this other Twitter account for a company called Quoth, literally used Wildfire's stolen artwork and said, in recent news, D. Hines, creator of Wildfire, found out that the blockchain-based game Epic Hero Battles used a key part of his artwork for the game. They've since apologized and deleted the account. That's why we're here. Easily avoid stolen artwork and plagiarism with Quoth. And Dan comes back and says, fuck off from using our art for your bullshit too. And I look at this and I go, this is a brilliant response because this is a key issue that we have with the NFT type stuff. There's just no regulation in place. So here's another company using his artwork, using stolen artwork to promote their own agenda and their own thing. And this just ties into that whole sketchy BS element of games being built in a non-regulated space. And again, for those of you who believe in blockchain and you believe in crypto and you believe in NFTs and you're upset because I'm preaching against them, again, it's not that I'm preaching against them per se, it's that I am urging people to do their due diligence and that I don't think this is something that is safe yet because we have too many case studies showing fraud and sketchy, scammy, fraudulent activity taking place around NFTs, blockchain, and crypto. And it's just not safe. It's just not safe. I think there's potential, but especially with crypto, I look at Elon Musk being able to fart and the entire crypto market crashes in a single 15-minute span. That's not a secure, stable market that I want to put my faith in. And it's not that I necessarily trust the governments and the fiat and everything else, but at the same time, we have currency that has a relatively stable level of stability to it. That makes no sense whatsoever to say stable level of stability, but it is what it is. All right, moving on. We've been ranting for fraud and stuff for 20 minutes or so. Let's talk about some cooler stuff. Let's talk some news. Um, I want to look at so Amazon Games obviously has New World launching tomorrow. Actually, I do have the game pre-ordered. I did play it during the closed beta, and I think it is an interesting game. I'm interested to see more of it and to play more of it. Um, I'm still concerned about the longevity of the project because there doesn't seem to be enough of the in-game content. And I say that with this in mind. Too many games focus only on the end game, and they don't provide the player with enough content to do leading up to the end game. Uh, New World does not have that. I played the closed beta, and there is a ton of stuff to do. Like there is so much to do, and it's a pretty reasonable, for me, pretty reasonable leveling curve if you're going to play casually. But I was around some people who were playing hardcore, and they leveled up in the course of like a week, leveled up to max. And that concerns me because when you don't want to do the content that's been developed for the game and instead you're just going to grind the quests that give you the most experience so that you get to the end as quickly as possible, and there's not really anything at the end, those people are going to very quickly find themselves with nothing to do, and they're going to be bailing. Now we can kind of see this with recent releases like Bless Unleashed. Start off with some really strong numbers, and then here we are, what, a month into it, and already their numbers are just plummeting day by day by day. It doesn't matter the fact that they're adding new content, they're adding new things, they're patching in everything. That game is just losing people by the day, and it's because the experience at the end game is not enjoyable. There's nothing really for them to do. It's just rinse repeat content and trying to force people into a cash shop. Now, we haven't seen how, from what I saw during the closed beta, the cash shop is at the moment very much cosmetic only, but they have said that they will be adding leveling features and fast travel features to that later on. So it remains to be seen how quickly they do that and how pervasive they are in terms of being in your face. But I will say that I enjoyed the game. I am concerned about the longevity, and I hope that it's going to have a very good turnout because Amazon also has, at the same time, they just announced that they are, and I got to scroll down here. Um, they're expanding their third party. Amazon Games is expanding their third party publishing program and working with an independent studio called Glowmade to publish an original upcoming IP. Glowmade is kind of interesting because they haven't released a product yet. It was founded in 2015, based out of Guildford, England, and has a team of 25 people and counting, which include developers from Fable, Little Big Planet, Battlefield, and Horizon Zero Dawn. And they're currently creating a creative online co-op experience for Amazon Games. So there's not really any information out about what they're building, but Amazon has said that they've taken a look at it and they are going to be working with them to become the publisher for their upcoming intellectual property. Now, we've also seen Amazon, they're doing Lost Ark, which they've pushed back that launch a bit. We saw the cancellation or the separation. I shouldn't say cancellation because there was some rumors a while back that it's not technically canceled, but we did see the separation over the disagreements with Tencent around the upcoming Lord of the Rings game, and a lot of people thought that perhaps the Lord of the Rings game had been canceled, the upcoming Second Age game that Amazon had been working on. But there were some job postings a few months back for um, Amazon Game Studio in California looking for a creative director and leads on a Lord of the Rings game. But that has never been confirmed outside of those job postings. If those job postings are true, then it suggests that even though Amazon and Tencent decided to part ways, Amazon has the licensing and everything else and may have taken all of those assets and brought them in house, and they may be continuing to work on the Lord of the Rings game in secret for the moment. But we don't know that. It's just a rumor. I just mentioned that in passing because, in the scope of Amazon continue to expand their third party offerings, yeah, they have New World coming out, but it also looks that like Amazon is trying to build its library of studios kind of in the way that Microsoft does it as well. Thumbs up to them. I hope they can pull it off because they don't have the greatest track record, like with Crucible failing, New World being pushed back over and over and over, so on and so forth. But I have faith that they could pull it off. They have enough money that if they're just willing to keep throwing money at something until they find something that sticks, that could work for them. I don't know. We'll see. EVE Online is now live on the Epic Games Store, which was interesting, but I think the most interesting thing to me was they finally released some player numbers, and they talked about they have had over 24 million pilots enter the universe of New Eden in the 18 years since it's been online, with just over 2 million being added since 2020 alone. Now, I don't know that those necessarily translate into subscriptions, but when you think about a game that has, a free to play element that is fairly robust, I've done the free to play version of EVE Online. I did pay for it after a few months because, or for a few months because the I was playing it enough at the time that the free to play version didn't have enough for me, but it was still robust. If you're only going to play 1 or 2 times a week, I think the free to play version is completely fine. But I wanted more out of it because I was playing 4 or 5 days a week, so I subbed up for a few months. Which actually I think I may have streamed. Probably not here on YouTube though. I think I did that over on Twitch as an experiment. It's a good game, and it's interesting to see it on the Epic Store now. So, 18 years in, and they are continuing to kind of dominate that space because let's face it, they are the only spacefaring MMORPG out there to date in a polished, finished format, I should say. Um, I mean, you do have Elite Dangerous, but it's not quite the same thing. And of course, you have the up and coming Star Citizen, which many people are playing now in alpha and love the experience they're getting out of it. But Eve still is the dominant um, defender in that category, and we will see. And most recently, which I don't know if this qualifies as an MMORPG per se, but it does have that multiplayer component, which is Diablo 2. The only reason that I didn't jump on the Diablo 2 bandwagon is because right as it was coming out, my brother decided that he wanted to play Star Wars: The Old Republic this year for our winter gaming session. Every year we get together and play an MMORPG for a few months. And the last couple of years we've done Lord of the Rings Online. So we're going back to Star Wars this year. And because of that, I was like, I'm already playing Final Fantasy 14, Pathfinder. I got all the stuff we're doing with tabletop. I don't have time to necessarily do, all these other games. I got New World that I'm going to be playing this week. And then when he said that, I was like, all right, Diablo 2, cool. I will watch it from a distance. If you haven't already done so, Nathan Napalm has a great video up on it if you want to go check that out. Other people have covered it, but I think it's got all the right things in there for the people who are looking for that nostalgic experience with the multiplayer component, and jumping into the world of Diablo again for the first time in many many years. So enjoy that as you will. And I think we're 30 minutes in, so I think we're going to call this a wrap this week. Um, Next week, I don't know what we're going to talk about next week, but we are going to be doing this. Like I said, it's going to be weekly, or every week is my plan. Sometimes I might take a break depending on travel and illness. Not like we're traveling around now, but how you feel and all this other stuff. But again, moving forward, if you want more information and everything else about the Mondays and MMORPG show, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so that you get all the updates when new episodes come out. And don't forget to check the back catalog of the previous 44 episodes that we did in the series. And stay tuned as we continue to talk about things in the future. If you want to come on and guest on the show, happy to have you. Ping me in Discord. Links to our Discord channel are below, so you can go over and join us there. That's the easiest way to get in touch with me. Is just hit me up on Discord. Let me know that you'd like to come on the show and talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about. I don't care if you're a content creator, streamer, gamer, developer, whatever the case may be. You want to come on the show, let me know. And again, stick around because we will have other people guesting on the show. We're going to have some people coming back from season 3, some of the developers, some of the gamers, some of the content creators, and so on and so forth as we move deeper into this new iteration of Mondays and MMORPGs. Thanks so much for everybody's support over the years. For those of you who are hanging out with us over on Patreon and who had supported during the previous iteration, and then who are continuing to support us with Project Drammon, thanks so much for that. Big things are coming down the pipeline here in October with that project, and we will be continuing to update people in all the different places where we hang out. So thanks, everybody. See you next week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have fun gaming.